Good afternoon. We are further moving to the next module, critical care of ICU patients with COVID-19. I am Mr. Bhima Surendra Babu, Senior Nursing Officer and also in charge of CTVS ICU, AIIMS Bhubaneswar. Objective of this session. At the end of the session, the participants will be able to understand and perform COVID ICU nursing care with improved confidence. For any ICU, the basic three preparations are required for nursing management. There are three P's: preparation of patient, patient environment, self and articles. Let us see. Preparation of patient. Identify the right patient, introduce yourself, explain the procedure, take consent, and position the patient appropriately, because if you are missing any kind of these things, your procedure may not be a complete one. You are ethically, legally, you are performing a procedure in a right manner. Preparation of patient environment. You give privacy, ventilation, lighting. If you are following these three things, you are good enough providing your environment. Preparation of self and articles, which is very important. Before entry to the ICU, ensure you are having good hydration, you had a good food so that you won't feel hunger, you won't feel thirsty. Use your washroom before going to the ICU, and proper fitting of your PPC is important. You know you are getting short, medium, large, extra large, different sizes. If you are using a wrong size, you are going to suffer. So after getting your proper fitting of your PPs, check yourself you are comfortable and freely movable, and identify the necessary articles which are required for your shift, and keep the things along with you near to the patient side. Follow 5 moments of hand washing with a sanitizer every time you do any procedure on your patient. Which kind of patients are coming to us? You have seen already, Mr. Benny has described you emergency severity index. The score of ESI 1 and ESI 2 category people are going to come to us, who are having severe life-saving intervention requirement and also who are disoriented and their vitals are in danger zone. ESI 1 and 2 are our major patients. Further current facts. You know the severity is unspecific and patient to patient it may vary. And high risk group people are very high risk, and the comorbidities will further worsen the situation. So Indian population, the recovery rate is satisfactory. It is 90 to 95%. It is not even satisfactory, it is excellent. So the treatment plan is only symptomatic. We need to concentrate how to improve the condition by reducing the symptoms, how to improve him by preventing from further deterioration. Clinical features and severity anticipated in ICU patients. Severe illness, already we know respiratory rate is more than 30, and low SpO2 less than 93%, PaO2 by FiO2 ratio that is less than 300, then you may see the patient is having severe illness. And also the X-ray studies, within 24 hours to 48 hours, 50% lung involvement will be seen. So this signifies the severity of the illness. And critical disease, we categorize it as 4 to 5% usually when the patient is going to respiratory failure, septic shock, MODS, multi-organ dysfunction syndrome. All this comes under critical disease. And you can see the statistics overall for case fatality is 2.3 to 5%. Patient may go, even patient may recover. So you can see the difference, 4 to 5% is critical disease and fatality is 2.3 to 5%. Still we have a gap and the hope for recovering the patient. If you do a good nursing care and good treatment, patient will recover. Let's move on to the indication for ICU admission. So ESI 1, 2 is one criteria, and sometimes we have based on symptoms we have a specific criteria. One major criteria or 3 more minor criteria will satisfy for a patient to get admitted into a ICU. That is what indication. Let us move on. What are the minor criteria symptoms? If the respiratory rate is more than 30 breaths per minute, if there is confusion or disorientation for the patient, if there is low TLC count, 4000 cells per microliter, leukopenia and thrombocytopenia, if platelet count is less than 1 lakh cells, then uremia, blood urea nitrogen rising more than 20 mg per deciliter, and if you can find multilobar infiltrates, these are all coming under minor criteria. Further, hypotension requiring for fluid resuscitation, you know you can resuscitate the patient and prevent the hypotension. Then hypothermia, if the patient is having hypothermia, we'll use the warmers and try to reduce the hypothermia situation and try to improve the temperature. And partial pressure of oxygen, SpO2, if it is less than 50 PO2 and SpO2 less than 90, the patient mandatory need ICU stay. And major criteria is need for mechanical ventilation, vasopressors. If any one of the major criteria is required, patient have to be inside the ICU. You no need to wait for a minor criteria to search. Any one major criteria is enough. So you assure that among these symptoms, anything patient is having, you identify any one major criteria or 3 or more minor criteria. If these symptoms are there, patient will be inside the ICU and get ready for your ICU care. Yes, we have come to the main slide for today's session. In this session, the slide shows you ICU management. There is a mnemonic fast hugs bit. So this is what the crucial role which you need to play for taking care of a patient for a faster recovery. F stands for feeding, A stands for analgesia, S for sedation, T for thromboembolic prophylaxis, H for head elevation, U for ulcer prophylaxis, G for glycemic control, S for spontaneous breathing trial. And let us discuss one by one. Feeding. If patient is sick, if patient is on ventilator, he will be having a liquid diet. If patient is out of ventilator, he may have a soft diet, which is high protein rich diet. Let's come to the liquid diet. We go for clear liquids, check infusion first. If patient is tolerating well, every 6th hourly, aspirate the fluid and see if any aspirate is coming. If there is no aspirate, he is doing well, tolerating well. So continue for next level of diet. That is, if you started with clear fluids, go for a liquid diet. Liquid diet, there is a thick liquid and light liquid. So light liquid diet is without adding additives. So you can give and try second hourly 100 ml so that patient is tolerating well, no aspirate is coming. So go for a thick fluid diet with protein powder. So if protein powder diet is tolerated well, that is the best for the patient. So we have hospital diet preparation. Various formulas are there for fluid liquid diet. Further move on to analgesia. Analgesia, we are having paracetamol, tramadol, injections we can give, TDS or SOS protocol based on your ICU consultant decision. And fentanyl SOS order will be given usually for an ICU patient to make him more comfort with analgesia. Intermittently we are giving. And morphine is the best drug for certain cases like open heart surgeries, post-operative recovery case or surgical cases. Morphine is more effective and give more comfort to the patient in reducing the pain. So pain management is very important. Pain scale readings should be associated with pain management. Further, we have sedation. Sedation, usually we use midazolam infusion, propofol infusion, vecuronium intermittently to paralyze the patient so that the aerosol generation will be reduced. Main purpose is to reduce the aerosols. Here, this management, sedation and analgesia is having a prominent role for reducing the aerosols. Injection dexmedetomidine is also a line of action if patient is having stable vitals. If no drop in blood pressures and vitals are not deteriorated, patient can be given dexmedetomidine infusion. So how far you are going to give analgesia, sedation, infusions and keep patient immobile, that depends on the patient improvement. If patient is not further deteriorating, patient is improving well and no more requirement of sedation, analgesia. If patient gets any one test negative of COVID swab, you can go further to decrease the sedation and analgesia and making to normal adaptation. Thromboembolic prophylaxis. We are giving subcutaneous low molecular weight heparin 0.4 mg. We are giving OD or BD based on the requirement of the patient. And also DVT stockings. All the ICUs will be provided with DVT stockings and a machine. So that is the best practice so that you don't miss anything in patient care. H, head and elevation. Head and elevation 30 degrees or more than 30 degrees, which is best possible way for the patient. You need to manage to prevent the pneumonia, because a patient may develop ventilator associated pneumonia if he is on ventilator and the position is not maintained. Ulcer prophylaxis. Proton pump inhibitors, that is pantoprazole 40 mg, usually we are giving OD dose, and if it is required maybe go on for a BDO or infusion based on the patient status. Glycemic control. It is very important. ICU nursing staff are very well oriented to this sliding scale. IV sliding scale is slightly different with subcutaneous protocol. So IV sliding scale is mostly used in ICU setup. If you are starting infusion, maybe the patient is having 140, you no need to start infusion. If the sugars are elevated to 230, 220, you start 1 ml per unit. That is 40 cc syringe, you add 1 ml of insulin regular that is 40 units. 1 ml equal to 1 unit. So you prepare the syringe, keep ready and start infusion. If 230, 2.3 ml, 240, 2.4 ml, 160, 1.6 ml, like that you are going to titrate the doses. If patient is coming 130 or 120, stop immediately, don't continue. So how far you have to monitor the sugars? If patient is on insulin infusion, you need to check every hourly, you need to check the sugar levels, because suddenly patient go for hypoglycemia, so care to be taken. Spontaneous bleeding trial, I already said, if patient is having no further deterioration, all the blood parameters deranging is settled, if patient is not having any specific elevation of infection or new infections, COVID test is negative at least once, you can plan for giving a spontaneous bleeding trial. And the protocol says that 1 or 2 samples are mandatory within 24 hours gap. So you give a gap of 24 hours. First sample you take it, it had come as negative, and second sample after 24 hours again it is negative. So you are very well confident to make a patient for a spontaneous bleeding trial. The main concept is to reduce the aerosols. If patient is sedated on a bed and paralyzed, so that patient gag reflex, cough reflex will not be stimulated, he will not spit out, so he will not exhale any aerosols. That will be a helpful atmosphere to prevent cross infection. Further, bowel regimen. Bowel regimen, if patient is not passing stools, if patient is having loose stools, you need to take care. Enema may be given or suppository may be given if patient doesn't pass stool, to relieve the constipation. And oral patient cannot take, so you can give Ryle's tube syrups, Dufalac or something, so that the bowel will be resumed. Bowel pattern can be improved. Indwelling catheter. Catheter removal is the first important thing we need to plan if patient is recovered from the bed or patient is recovering from other major things, because it is a source of infection. There is a chance of getting catheter associated urinary tract infection, COTI. So to prevent that, try to remove as early as possible. If you want to continue, silicone catheter can be used. In removing the first one, you can remove the normal catheter, rubber one, and give a silicone catheter. It will help you better. De-escalation of antibiotics. De-escalation of antibiotics, usually you start with a basic prophylactic or empirical antibiotic. Maybe ceftriaxone you started, you go on to piptas, then you go on to meropenem. And patient is sensitive, based on the culture samples you have started continued meropenem. And patient is now reduced the TLC count and come to normal levels, CRP is normal and no signs of infection, lung is recovering. So you come down again to the basic antibiotic. This is what we need to follow in ICU. Because if you give more antibiotics, more resistance may develop for different organisms, patient will get immunocompromised in future. So to save that consequence, to avoid that kind of deterioration, we need to de-escalate antibiotics as soon as possible. Now move on to the routine investigations. I have already said you, based on all these parameters we are going to decide. We are checking for CBC. We will come to know what is the TLC count, what is the platelet count in complete blood picture. So LFT is important and helpful. RFT, renal function test, is also very important. PTINR, APTT. The coagulation related profile is much more needed. If patient is having any bleed, patient may develop pulmonary edema due to improper fluids. Fluid management, if there is a deterioration, patient may develop pulmonary edema. During that time, if any injury happens during suctioning process, it will start profusely bleeding due to deranged values of coagulation factors. So once the patient is having deranged values, it will further deteriorate the lung and whole lung will get bleed and it will be very complicated. Patient cannot be recovered back. He will end up with ARDS and respiratory failure. So these reports regularly we need to follow. Along with the CRP also needed, and to know the level of infection, we need to follow the investigations regularly on a routine basis. And chest X-ray is important when patient is on a ventilator or any kind of ICD patient is having. We need to go regular early morning chest X-ray to see the progress of the patient, and we can plan simultaneously when to extubate the patient. ABG, blood sugars, every 4 to 6 hours we need to check, or repeatedly based on the necessity. Arterial blood gas analysis gives you significantly about the electrolyte imbalances and also acidosis related impact on patient. So if required, we can do the corrections. Potassium correction we can be given, sodium correction can be given, calcium correction can be given. So we will come to know the exact picture of the patient and will not allow the patient to get further deteriorated. Routine investigations. What routine investigations you are doing? Blood cultures and specimens of nasopharyngeal, oropharyngeal swabs. Blood cultures don't delay for the antimicrobial therapy. You collect as you reach the patient into your unit. Immediately try to collect it. If you are not collected also, don't hesitate to start antibiotics. Antibiotics will help in reducing the infection or further deterioration. Collect specimens for RT-PCR, real-time reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction test. You know, ET tube culture and sensitivity also you are having similar protocol. Specimens in ET culture and sensitivity, everything will go with the same protocol. 2 to 4 days we need to send, and the result will come positive or negative. We need to see. Based on that, we'll decide further treatment for the patient. So even urine culture and sensitivity, you send it. It is not to rule out COVID, it is to rule out any opportunistic infections like COTI, any catheter-associated urinary tract infection is catching to the patient. So we need to find out which organism is there and which antibiotic it is sensitive. So to follow up this, we need to send urine culture sensitivity as well, along with the ET culture, blood culture samples. So the recent protocol saying that you no need to wait for 2 samples. If one patient is negative, you wait for reducing the symptoms, and if the patient is not showing any symptoms for another 10 days, you can think that patient is recovered from the infection, patient may be negative. Next we move to basic routine care of ICU patient. Basic routine care, you are very well taken care about these things. I have to reorient you, just going with the flow. Monitoring of hemodynamic parameters, vital signs, ventilator settings, and the intake output balance hourly, any drain, any kind of vomiters, any RT feeds, everything you are charting in a big chart. Further, you are going to assess GCS scoring for this kind of sedated patients or neurologically imbalanced patient. Pupillary size and reactivity, muscle power grading, whether patient is able to get ready for extubation or patient can recover after extubation. Based on his muscle power, we are going to decide. Sedation score, maybe patient is agitated, combated, unarousable. What is the status of the patient sedation? We are going to assess and chart it, so that we will plan how we are going to take the next plan of action. Pain scale reading, very much essential. I already said you patient is getting analgesia. So you see, maybe patient is able to speak. Such kind of patients you can ask 0 to 1 rating, or facial expressions you can see for a patient who is on ventilator when he is on pain. Based on that, you are assessing and giving the analgesia. Delirium score 0 to 8 can be assessed when patient is staying in ICU for long duration. In continuation, the basic routine care, morning care is very crucial. So the morning care will give you overall status of the patient data. While you are doing bed bath, you can observe any kind of bed sores formation or any kind of pressure points. The skin is get compressed or redness is there, any bed sore formation chances are given, you can identify. Eye care, hair care, mouth care, back care, catheter care, all these things you are doing as per the routine basic practice. And here much more importance or inference we need to do is based on mouth care and suctioning process. Mouth care is having a little bit risk of liberating aerosols, and oral suctioning is having a chance to liberate aerosols. So you need to take care and follow the proper aseptic techniques, and your PP should be well fit for you. ET, we are doing closure suction and ventilator related things and ET suctioning management. Next session Mrs. Sushri is going to discuss you in detail. Bed sore prevention, you are providing an air mattress. Some people may provide water mattress, but water mattress is obsolete nowadays. It is heavy and difficult. Due to practical difficulties, we are practicing air mattress with the pump. And due medications we are giving as per the orders without miss. That is what important as a routine practice. Ensuring drain bags, urine bags and suction jars emptying properly, and any spillages, minor or major, you are going to disinfect it with 1% hypochlorite solution, and the disinfection of equipment used inside the patient unit should be properly taken care. Rise to feeding, already I have discussed. As per the tolerance, you are going to rise and giving him a high protein diet. Prevention of COTI, CLABSI, VAP, ventilator associated pneumonia, central line associated bloodstream infection, catheter associated urinary tract infection, surgical site infection, care to be taken, because these are the sources for opportunistic infections. Patient already suffering with COVID infection. So you are trying to avoid further deterioration of the patient by protecting him from these kind of important infection control practices. So please maintain good aseptic conditions when you are managing the patient for these kind of areas. Coming to caring of patient with exclusively COVID-19, there are very minor changes. Only the PPE kit is the first factor which is troubling you more. You are getting suffocated, you may feel uncomfortable, your eyes will keep getting fogged due to the exhalation process. So those are all the important considerations. You try to overcome them by getting confident care, whatever you are planning to do. So usual management is viral pneumonia, how you are treating, respiratory failure patient, how you are treating. These things we are going to take care. So based on that plan, you be confident what you are going to do, and avoid or try to reduce the aerosol generating procedures. Minimize the aerosol generating procedure so that you are safe. You are trying to create a safe atmosphere. Here we are seeing special critical care for COVID-19 patients. Usually the patient will suffer with ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and he will end up with respiratory failure. So we have to plan a conservative IV fluid strategy, like patient should maintain neutral balance. Don't go for too much negative balance, don't go for too much positive balance. At the end of the day, we need to maintain a neutral balance. Because if you go for highly negative balance, patient will get dehydrated. If you go for high positive balance, patient will be having pulmonary edema and further lung will be deteriorated. Empirical early antibiotics as per policy. We are going to start baseline antibiotics as per the blood parameters, how they are getting deranged, liver parameters, how they are getting deranged, and kidney parameters, how they are getting deranged. We are avoiding the toxic antibiotics, going for a safer antibiotics as per the institutional policy. Consideration for early invasive ventilation. You try to make the patient sedated and keep him on a mechanical ventilator with controlled setup so that patient will not further deteriorate. Lung protective ventilation strategies. Already I discussed you. Patient will be kept on VCV, volume control mode, and Sushri will give you a brief description about it. And also PEEP, peak and respiratory pressure. Here, this kind of patients require high PEEP compared to normal patients, and volume to be little bit lower compared to normal other ventilator patients. This strategy will help in protection. And periodic prone positioning during mechanical ventilation. You can see the picture. It is showing you the patient who is lying down in prone position with a monitor, and the ventilator is connected, few infusions are connected, and there is a critical monitoring going on for this patient. So such kind of job is very tedious. You try to keep the patient at least 16 hours or 12 to 16 hours in a day, because this will help you to relax the lungs and try to get the improvement in the patient condition. So this procedure requires at least 4 people, including the doctor, to take care the tubings, to keep kinking away from the patient treatment site. ECMO, that will be the ultimate chance. ECMO means extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. I think CTVS ICU nursing staff and CTVS ICU, CTVS OT staff will be well aware with this. ECMO is the ultimate plan to release extra pressure, extra stress from the patient, like you are going to create a bypass for the blood circulation to reduce pressure on heart and lungs. So open sternotomy will be done, and patient will be kept connected to a machine, and the machine will be helping the patient to recover a bit faster. So here veno-venous transmission of blood circulation will be done. So we are going to safe working practices. Here safe working practices are already discussed in different forum in different varieties. So I would like to emphasize most important thing is prophylactically sedation to the patient, paralyzing the patient, reducing the cough or gag reflexes to avoid aerosols. Simple, avoid aerosols by taking care. Availability of all essential and desired equipment inside the patient care unit, like ABG machine, X-ray machine, portable ultrasound machine, and all adequate syringe pumps, IV tubings, and adequate supplies. Moving on to discharge or transfer plan. Usually ICU patients will not get discharged. We are going to transfer the patient to a recovery room or isolation ward for rehabilitation. You can see the picture what is shown here. The nursing staff are discharging the patient from ICU setup to the ward setup is actually not a discharge, it is a transfer. So the transfer is taken care so that nobody is infecting any other people. We are taking the patient who is recovered from the ICU setup. He is already negative, so there is no confusion. We are going to take in a very controlled manner with the oxygen support. The patient will be shifted to an isolation area. So you can see the picture. This is the picture of AIIMS Bhubaneswar. The patient was shifted after ICU recovery. That's it for today. Hope you have enjoyed the session, the reorientation about the ICU management. Do you have any queries? Please text me in the chat box. I would like to clarify you as soon as possible. Thank you.